morning. We're trying something different. You are in what we discuss, whether it's called the library, the study, or the office, or just the other room. But we're going to try this and see how this works, because we know we had some problems with the picture, and we hope that will work out in the sound. So we're going to do it this way. And this morning's reading in Mark is not on the lectionary. The lectionary readings were something else. I went back to the one reading that was missed. Remember the story about Jesus and the disciples getting in the boat and going over to the other side of the lake, and the storm came up and there were other boats and they were afraid, and so on. And then there was the next episode, which is what we're going to look at today. But we didn't have that. We jumped to a different episode, and it's too bad, because this reading is very important. A little background on this. When the boat gets to the other side, Jesus leaves the Jewish section and goes over to Gentile territory, Gennesaret. And they get off the boat, and the first person to greet Jesus is a demonic man. Not a group of people waiting for him, not people saying welcome over on this side, but a man possessed with demons who lived among the tombs with an unclean spirit. And when they say among the tombs, it meant he was engaging with the dead, which in Jewish law makes him impure. He oftentimes had to be restrained in shackles and chains. He would wrench them apart. At night and day, he was in the tombs. And then he sees Jesus. And he's the one who shouts out, "What do you want with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God?" He identifies Jesus. He knows who Jesus is. His disciples don't. His followers don't. But here's the man who's possessed and is wondering what's going to happen, because he has so many demons in him. Legions. When they say legions, we're talking thousands. It's a Roman military term. My name is Legion. And the spirits inside beg Jesus, if you're going to do this, send us off with the swine and we can still survive. The swine meaning, reminding us that it's Gentile territory. And these are people who don't really know who Jesus is. And then the swine jump off, and the swineherds run off and wonder what happened. And people who observe this were wondering what's happening. And then they see that the man is sitting there. The demonic is gone, clothed in his right mind, in good spirits. And here's the most interesting thing. Here's this person that has terrorized this community. Everybody knows him. They've had to keep him chained up. They had to keep him separated from the community. He was unclean. He was a problem for them. And what do when Jesus heals them? They beg Jesus to leave their neighborhood. Can you go away? We don't want you here. They didn't say thank you or, wow, this was great. Can you tell us more? And so we want you to get out of our neighborhood. And as Jesus was going in the boat, the healed man from the demonic came up to Jesus and said, "I want to go with you." You heard that in the reading. And Jesus says, "No, stay here." Now remember, we always think, oh, everybody wants to follow Jesus, but Jesus does this every so often. Stay with your people. Stay here. You have much ministry to do with them. They didn't welcome me, but they will understand you. Because they didn't welcome Jesus. They didn't welcome the healing. They didn't welcome what Jesus was going to do with them. They'd rather have it the way it was. And that's oftentimes what we end up doing in our life. We oftentimes want it the way it was. We're very comfortable with our patterns, with our routines. We don't want change. And if change is going to happen, it's going to be a little minor, but nothing major. We want it so that we're comfortable, no matter how bad it may be. And when someone says, this isn't a healthy lifestyle you're living, a lot of people will just ignore it. I mean, I'm just thinking like with exercising, there's people, their doctor will say, you need to get out and exercise and eat right, and they'll get a dietitian, and people will walk away and say, no. We as humans, change isn't easy. As human beings, change isn't always easy. The amazing thing, though, is change happens. And if you looked at today's title, it's change, or changes, because that was from David Bowie, the song. But it's not about changes. It's about transitioning from a lifestyle that's probably not healthy to moving to a healthy lifestyle and place, whether it's physically, emotionally, psychologically, religiously, because there's a lot of patterns that go on in our life, systems that go on that keep grinding away, that keeps us playing roles, but never allowing us to be free to be ourselves and be healthy. And amazingly, we're real hesitant about identifying the problems. So often we know there's problems. We know there's issues, but we just kind of let it go. We just kind of deny it and bury it. It's the old Uncle Ernie or Auntie Gladys, who always may act belligerent, or they may drink too much or whatever. And someone says, we need to do something because it's disrupting the family. Oh, that's just the way they are. We just accept that pattern. Sometimes it's just rude behavior. And we all have to walk around this person's behavior or group's behavior. And the first thing you have to do is identify the issue, because you're not living in a healthy situation. You're not free to be yourself. You are acting in the patterns that allows these individuals or groups to not disrupt them. Okay. If I don't say anything, if I keep my distance, if I pretend it's not happening, we'll get through this day and I can go home. You have to identify the issue. And sometimes, instead of identifying the issue, when something blows up in a family, we blame people. It's your fault. It's your fault. It's never our fault. It's never my fault. It's not, how are we going to fix this? It's your fault. I remember someone talking to me years ago, and this person has had issues with their parents for years and years and years, and really wanted to kind of work out the issues and get into a healthier relationship. Everyone was growing older, thought it would be good. So this person reached out to their parents, said, we need to talk. I just need to go through what's going on. I need to share with you what's going on with me so that we can have a healthy relationship. And their initial response is, we'll get back to you. A week later, this person called and said, well, would you like to meet and we could talk through these things? They said, the mother said, no, your father and I talked and we decided we're good. We won't talk about it. We're okay with that. And we're just going to leave it the way it is. This person was devastated and never had a healthy relationship with her parents. And that's sad. All what they had to do is sit down and say, what are the issues, concerns? And oftentimes it's not even huge. And how can we work that out? It's identifying. And churches go through this. Churches have issues and conflicts. And this reading, I love this reading. And I shared it with colleagues this week because they're all doing the lectionary. I said, I'm doing this. And I explained why. And I said, this is so much what interim ministry is all about. This reading. Because you go in as the outsider, you help the people identify what the issues are, what the demons are, what the legions are, what's going on, and say, here is how you can work through it, and whether they're going to accept it or not. And I discovered, and many of my colleagues in the interim ministry discovered, so many congregations are willing to brush under the issues, and they're not always big issues, or the conflict, or the misunderstandings, for fear of losing church members. If we bring that up, if we confront that, we're going to lose these people who are really perpetuating this problem. And in the long run, you look back, so many of these churches lost church members because of their behavior. That's sad. But we have more and more churches that are declining, more and more churches that are going part-time, and more churches that are struggling with their life because they had the opportunity. And this was what this reading is about. The demonic came there, confronted. Jesus dealt with the issue with the demonic. The people weren't ready for it. They just weren't ready for it. And with most cases, if you deal with the problem or the misunderstanding, because it's usually misunderstanding in family, right away, it's not a huge problem. It becomes elevated and becomes built up over time because other things are thrown into that, to the point where it's so monstrously large, it's unwieldy and out of control. But if you just would have sat down and talked about it right away, it clears it up. That's what I do with my wife, Kay, when there's a misunderstanding. We talk about it rather than let it fester, because it's going to come out some other way. And I've seen this happen where couples come in and they're coming in for one issue, and all of a sudden it's an explosion of past issues that go way back for years. There was a gentleman in my church years ago, wonderful guy. He was a recovering alcoholic, but it turned out that he wasn't recovering. And I get a call one morning, 7:30 in the morning, 7 o'clock, and he's at his home, and he's already inebriated, and he needed to get into some form of treatment. And so we worked at that morning, got him set up, and got a counselor set up for him and got him out. And this is a pattern. This has happened several times in his life and within his family, and the family was devastated. And I was talking to a friend of his, and his friend says, it's really hard to see this, because I always thought, his friends told me this, that he always thought that God would only give us only as much as we can handle. And so why is this happening to this person? Just like it's overwhelming. My response was, it was at a point earlier where it was manageable and where he could handle it. And God was there. And God's still there. But it had grown so much that it was just too massive. Why? Because you don't deal with it when it's there. We bury it. We say, let's go away. Oh, let's forget about it. Oh, don't worry about it. Or just, I guess I have to take it. No. You sit down and work it through. And that's what Jesus is doing here. But you can see that the people on that side are saying they're afraid of this. They like having this demonic. They like, because it's a pattern in their life. They don't want to let it go. They don't want it fixed. They like it's not that they like the behavior. They're comfortable with the way it is, and they don't care or want to know what the change is. They don't want to know what the other side is. And so many times when I've talked to people, or I've had, when I've met with counselors who gave workshops, they'll always say, when people come in to deal with the issues, you have to tell them it's hard to start out with, but the other side is so much better. It's so much better on the other side. There was this one family that came in, and they were very active in the church, but their father was was an alcoholic, and they got to a point, it was very hard on them, but they had their own dynamic issues, and they said, we want to do intervention. I said, okay, I'll help you get connected, get us out. They had everything in place to do an intervention with this gentleman, which would have helped the family's dynamic and their health and his health. And the day before they were going to do the intervention, they all backed away. They canceled. And life went on in their spiraling out of control behavior. And they were wondering, why is this happening to us? Because when you had the opportunity, you let it go by. God gives us opportunities in churches to deal with what we face all the time. And if we deal with it with compassion, but with honesty and with firmness, and say, no, we can't allow that behavior. No, this is not who we are. Yes, we want to heal this. We do it in a compassionate, open way, respecting one another. The Spirit of God comes in to heal. But so many times we're afraid of what that would mean. And like the demonic and like the people, we'd rather have the demonic back in the cemetery, among the graves. It's a tough choice for us. But God, who is a God who liberates us. How do we know that? Read the book of Exodus. God who liberates us from that which holds us in bondage will walk us through even the most trying of times, and we accept that. That's what this passage is all about. Are we going to accept that healing and have that faith and trust? Or do we close ourselves off, let the demonic be in the tomb? And what is the tomb for? For death, to die. What is being with Jesus, coming out of the tomb and being resurrected? That's the passage. That's today. That's the miracle of the Spirit of God. When we face and deal with those issues, and they're not big, but they can become big if we don't deal with them. And we respect each other. And we grow from that. Remember, the demonic was left behind. The man who was healed was left behind. That's how much faith and confidence Jesus had in that man. He said, you've got a gift, stay here. Your people need your ministry. The world and each of us needs our ministry of healing together. Amen.